All right, today's a big day. Big day. Got to make a very important decision. And the decision that you make today will be affecting the next 2 weeks of your English class life. Today you're going to choose which stance you're going to pursue in this argumentative, persuasive essay. You're going to choose whether you are going to say that the internet does not have a negative impact on our thinking process, or you're going to choose the stance that the internet does have a negative impact on our thinking process. Now, you might be thinking, he seems to be being a little over dramatic with this choice. And I think you're right. To be perfectly honest. I'm not saying it's not a big deal, but you should be able to relax while you pick which side you're going to take. And here's why. It doesn't matter which side you take. There's plenty of stuff in these packets that you'll be able to do a great job whichever side of the coin that you pick. The only thing that you cannot do is prevent a fair and balanced, informative presentation of all the information so the reader can make up their own mind. That's not what we're looking to do. We're looking to pick a side, and we're going to defend that side and prove that side and show why that side is right, even if you actually feel like you're somewhere in the middle. I mean, I do. I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle in terms of really picking a side on this. But remember that this is an exercise in writing. This is not some sort of personal manifesto. So relax and pick one. If one side jumps out at you for being easier, pick it. Not that I'm encouraging you to take the easier road to success, but if one side seems easier to do for you, what that probably means is you've been able to notice more information to support that side. So, great, go ahead and go with it. What if you really personally feel one way or another on this task? Well, this time around, it's perfectly okay for you to pursue which one you generally feel more strongly about. However, I will let you know that the reason it's okay to do that now is because there is plenty of information on both sides. But there's been instances in years past where I tell you, one side was definitely favored over another. And if you ever notice that, go with what seems like it might be the easier essay to write. Why? Because these things are difficult enough as it is. So that's going to be step one today. You're going to pick a side, all right? You're going to either decide that you're going to write this essay on, the internet has a negative impact on our thinking process, or you're going to say, no, the internet does not have a negative impact on our thinking process. Now let's look into the future for a sec. What I don't want you to do is sometime in the future say to yourself, I should have picked the other side because it's the other side is going to be easier. It's not. Trust me, it's not. They're equal. They really are. And I noticed how equal they were while we were going through the texts. Text 1, you could use text 1 to support either one of the two stances that you can take. Text 2, that's not the case with text 2. That text clearly says that, boy, there's a bunch of negative stuff happening to our noggins because of the internet. If you're going to go with the internet's having a negative impact on our brain, you're definitely going to need text 2, and there'll be a ton of good stuff for you to use. Text 3, the complete opposite. Text 3 I find really interesting because what the author says is, the internet is having an impact on our brain, but it's not negative. In fact, there's lots of things that impact our brain and our thinking process. Just because there's a change doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, is the argument in text 3. So if you're going to go with, the internet's not having a negative impact on our brain, you're definitely going to need text 3. And then finish up with text 4, which is another little bit of this, little bit of that. There's stuff on text 4 that would support the argument that the internet's having a negative impact. And there's stuff in text 4 that says, hey, okay, internet stuff, but we're all going to be fine. Which brings us to step 2 of today, which is going to be gathering evidence. I'm going to ask you to go through some of the text and copy and paste some quotes that you'll be able to utilize later. Now, yeah, I said copy and paste. Well, all right, here's an update. So the PDF file is still there, but it's very difficult to copy and paste from a PDF unless we bring in Cami, and I've heard such mixed things, and I decided, no, we won't do that. So I've been working on taking texts 1 through 4 and putting them into Google Docs, but then I was having a problem adding the line numbers. And that's a problem that, unfortunately, I can't seem to fix right now. So here's what I've decided. I've made available to you all 4 of the texts in that packet. I turned them into Google Docs, and they're in Schoology ready and waiting for you. What you will notice is there are not line numbers. Okay, I tried a bazillion different things, and I just can't get it to work for us. So I've decided that although in terms of citing your quotes when it comes to the actual presentation, the formal essay, if you will, I'm still going to want text numbers. I'm going to want to know which text this came from, but I'm not going to have you include line numbers this time around. Why? Because it's just too much of a pain in the butt right now. Later on this year, I'll figure something out, but I want to get going with this, and this line number thing is slowly driving me to the edge. So let's get into some specifics of what I'd like you to do for part 2. All right, so you've already chosen which stance you're going to take. If you're going to choose that the internet is having a negative impact on our brain, I'm going to ask you to start with text 2. I'm going to ask you to grab 4 quotes from text 2, and I'm going to ask you to put them in a Google Doc and make sure you label that they're all from text 2. That's where you're going to start. Now, if you're going to pick the stance that the internet is not having a negative impact on our brain, I'm going to ask you to start with text 3. And I'm going to ask you to grab 4 quotes from text 3 and put them on a Google Doc. And then, regardless of which stance you pick, I'm going to ask you to grab 2 quotes from text 1 and 2 quotes from text 4 that would help your argument. Don't worry about a counterclaim right now. We'll get to that later. So it looks like we're gathering a grand total of 6 pieces of evidence, minimum, okay? If you want to do more, sure. But if you start copying and pasting the entire article for yourself, that's not helping yourself out. Will you be obligated to make sure you use every piece of evidence that you grab today? No, you won't be. And when it comes to the final product, if you end up using a piece of evidence that didn't make it into today's doc, that's not going to be the end of the world either. All right, but what we are doing is we're starting to assemble our thoughts onto one document so we can take a look at the evidence we have to deal with. There's more steps involved, all right, but today we're going to pick a stance and we're going to grab a grand total of 6 pieces of evidence. 4 from the article that is obviously a big fan of whichever stance you pick, and then 2 from the 2 articles that are a bit of a mix. I've put these directions on a Google Doc that's going to be connected with the assignment for today. Doing today's work will make the work in the future a little bit easier for you. All right, so I think that's about it. So in Schoology, it'll be all 4 text to Google Doc versions without line numbers. I'm sure we'll be okay. And there's that Google Doc that you'll copy and submit for points today that'll have a quick review of today's task directions. All right, so we're picking a stance and then we're gathering some evidence. Later on this week, we'll get to counterclaim, we'll get to ethos, pathos, logos, and some other cool stuff. And next week we'll do some writing. All right, that's about it for me today. If you have questions, run into issues, any of that stuff, you know where I work. All right, I'm out. See you later.